Okay, so yesterday, all right, our last lesson was on percent of a number. Okay, and percent of a number was a problem similar to this. It was something like 30%. Find out what 30% of 50 is. Okay. Now, you had to solve that, right? And what did we do? We moved the decimal over twice, and we wrote it down, multiplied it, and that was pretty much a skill that you have learned in elementary school. Okay? Now, here's the issue. Okay? We've talked about this, just kind of referring to a past lesson. Okay? Remember when we were talking about equal fractions? And I said, guys, in elementary school, I said, to get this top number, what do? You say, oh, you multiply 3 here, and you do the same thing to the top. I said, that's perfect. You're absolutely right. But what happened was, in elementary school, your worksheets or your book gave you problems like this that worked on every single time. Bless you. So what I want to say is now we should know, right? We've talked about this, that there are other math problems out there with equivalent fractions or equivalent ratios that doesn't work on. And I had to show you a different method that worked every time. Well, going back to this, what we talked about earlier is it works only part of the time. The changing this to a decimal and multiplying. It doesn't work every single time on every single percent problem. So, just to let you know, all right, 30% of 50 is actually 15. All right. Now, here, let me explain. All right, let's just say that we're going to go buy a pair of jeans. The jeans were $50, and the discount was 30%. Oh, 30% off of a pair of jeans for $50. You know, the sign that's, next to the jeans or whatever. You're getting a great deal. 30% off. Okay, here's your discount. The jeans are $50. Okay, this is the sale. Your jeans are $50. And $15 is going to be how much money you save. That's your discount. Okay, now here's what I want to introduce to you guys. With a percent problem, a percent problem will have 3 different elements. It'll have 3 different parts. Okay? It will have the percentage, of course. This number here in my little fake problem right now, the jeans costing $50, that is the regular price of the jeans, $50. That right there in that problem represents the whole amount. That's the whole amount. The whole amount that the jeans would normally cost. The $15 is the discount. That is the part of the money that we're going to save. So a percentage problem has a percent, a number that represents the whole, and then whatever the part is. That's your basis, okay, of a percent problem. Now, with that said, here's the issue. Yesterday, they gave us the percent and the whole. We had to find out the part. Okay? They gave us the percent, the whole. We had to find out the part. Today, here's what's going to happen. We're going to get the percent and maybe the part. We have to find out what the whole is. So for example, guys, the jeans are on sale for 30% off. If the discount is $15, what was the original price? That would be an example of that kind of problem. Okay? Or even better yet, they may give us the whole and the part and ask us, what's the percentage? Meaning, what would be how much did you save? What was the percentage of savings? So for example, the jeans are $50. Your discount was $15. What was the percent on the sale? Okay? So that's the kind of problems that we're doing today. And that, of course, requires a different skill. And that skill, ladies and gentlemen, is percent proportion. We're going to use a proportion to solve these problems. So it's a little extra review, but some extra twist to it that I want to introduce to you guys. All right. So with that said, this is the first part is a little reminder of what we just talked about. Here's what I want you to go to in your notes. If you haven't put your notes paper that you grabbed on your way in your notes, go ahead and do that now. So green on the left, notes on the right. All right, so here's the word I want you to go to. All right, it is percent proportion. Everyone?
Percent proportion.
So here's what your book says a percent proportion is. It is one ratio or fraction that compares part of a quantity to the whole quantity. The other ratio is the equivalent percent written as a fraction with a denominator of 100. Okay, and that should make sense, right? Because if you have something like 83%, and I said, guys, write that as a fraction, you would just say, remember we talked about percent being per 100 or for each 100? You would just write 83% as 83 over 100. Okay, so that's what it's talking about. It's written as a fraction with a denominator of 100. Okay, now in your little box off to the right, here's what I want you to do. Go ahead and just kind of put a little squiggly line or something, split it in half. I'm going to have you write 2 different notes in that little box. Okay, here it is. When you have a real life word problem, okay, kind of like the gene problem I made up a second ago, here is how the percent proportion is written. You're going to take the part, for example, the discount, and you're going to put it over the whole, which is like the original price. It's not always about money, but I'm just using money as an example. That is going to be equal to whatever the percent is over 100. So the percent proportion is truly part over a whole equals percent over 100. Now, there is another one, and that's for a word problem. This is the best percent proportion you can really think of. However, there's another percent proportion out there used sometimes on phrases, and I'll show you guys what kind of problems I'm talking about. But there are some key words, and here it is. In your other part of your box, go ahead and write this. Is over of equals percent over 100. Is over of equals percent over 100. Now the reason why that is because the word is, when we see that word at times, it will tell us what the part is. It's a little helper word. Same thing with of. Anytime you see the word of in like a phrased problem, like we'll see in just a bit, that's going to tell us what the whole is. So this and this are exactly the same, but these are just helper words to identify the part and the whole. Okay. Now, if this is still confusing to you, we're gonna do some examples together to show you what I'm talking about. Okay. So that's actually it for our vocab. Go ahead and I'd like you to grab your book and flip over for our examples. Flip over to page 125. Page 125. Okay, eyes up here when you're ready. Question? Okay, here we go. Now, when I was talking about a problem that's not a word problem, it just has a phrase, this is what I was talking about. It says 12% of 72 is what number? Okay, so here's what I want you to do. On this particular problem, go up to actually the very top of your page And I want you to write step 1 at the very top of your page. Step 1, go ahead and put a little star by it. And here's what step 1 is. Because we're dealing with just a phrase like this, I want you to write this percent proportion. Is over of equals percent over 100. Now here's why I had you put it at the top of the page and put a star by step 1. This is just for reference, meaning that you only have to write it this one time. On every problem, you're going to look back at it, but you don't have to, unless you want to write that every time, you don't have to write that every time. Okay? As long as you have it somewhere where you can look at it, it's going to help us set up our proportions. Okay? So here we go. Here's what step 2 is. Step 2 is I'm going to identify the 3 parts. So what do I mean by 3 parts? I mean you're going to identify the percent. We're going to look for the percent. We're going to look for the is. And we're going to look for the of. So, well, Mr. Williams, what about 100? Well, 100's always there because percent's always out of 100. So we don't have to look for that. That's always there. These are the 3 main parts that we have to identify. So here we go. Here's how we do it. The very easiest thing, always look for the percent sign. If you can find it, guess what? There's your percent. Okay? That part's pretty easy most of the time. If they give you the percent, there it is. Now, if we take a look, here's our number 72. Now, sometimes this will happen. You'll say, well, Mr. Wilkins, I don't know if that's the is or the of because it is smack dab right in the middle of both words. Well, this is how you think about problems like this. The what number with the question mark, that's what they're asking. Well, guess what? That is linked to the is. We are trying to find out what the is, meaning we're trying to find out the part. 72, ladies and gentlemen, that's the of. So here's what you're going to see me do. Step 3 is I'm going to write our proportion, but not with the is over of equals percent over 100. I'm actually going to put the numbers in it. So here we go. First of all, 100 is always on the bottom right. I'm looking at step 1 up at the top of my page. The percent goes above it. Well, that one in this problem is 12%. So I'm going to put the 12. And think about it, right? 12% is 12 over 100. That's all that shows. The of is the whole. It's on the bottom left. So my 72 goes right here. All right, step 4. I'm going to go ahead and solve by using cross products. So those of you guys that really took cross products seriously and followed my directions last chapter instead of some of us unfortunately did it our own way, I hope that wasn't you, okay? This is where it pays off. This is where it's going to be easy for you. Remember what cross products are. First of all, we are finding out what the is. We're trying to find out what the part is, okay? So remember cross products mean that this times this is going to be equal to this times this. So I'm going to go ahead and solve that, exactly that. 72 times 12 is equal to 100 times x. And remember last chapter when we simplify, well, the right is 100x. You can't simplify that anymore. 72 times 12 can be a calculator problem. 72 times 12 equals 864. Now, remember, we have to get x by itself, isolate the variable. X is being multiplied by 100, so we do the inverse. We do the opposite, meaning we divide by 100. Whatever we do to one side, we do on the other. So those cancel. We end up with x is equal to, and then 864 divided by 100. I'll punch that in my calculator. Some of us might not need to. It is 8.64. Now, there is a 5th step. And here it is. If I read my directions, it says find each number, round to the nearest 10th if necessary. Ladies and gentlemen, the nearest 10th, okay, if you take a look at our chart up there, the 10th is to the right of the decimal. I'm rounding to this. So the 4 makes the 6 stay the same, and our answer, ladies and gentlemen, is 8 and 6/10. All right, questions? Okay, if there are no questions, here's the one I want you guys to try out. I'll check in with you in 1 minute. If you finish early, continue to do some of the easier problems like this if you understand it. Quick question? Nope, it's not. It was 12%, right? 12%. So it's just 8.6. So I mean, and it's not dollars. If it was dollars, you'd be finding out what 12% of $72 is, and that would be $8.60. But since there's no dollars and there's no percent, you just leave it as 8.6.
Since before we rounded it was 8.64.
Mm-hmm.
And if that was dollars, would we still round it?
No, if it's dollars, right, you always have, it would always be to the nearest hundreds because you need your cents, and that's always to the nearest hundred, 64 cents. Okay, any other questions? All right, here's the one I want you guys to try out. Try out problem number 1. Listen, on number 1, I'm going to give you a little, there's a little extra to it, but it's not hard. After you do it, you're going to do everything like this. After you do it, I want you to look at your answer, and I want you to reread your problem because your answer may be missing something, okay? You're still solving everything exactly the same. Just watch for that at the very, very end, okay? Go ahead, I'll give you guys 1 minute. I'll check in with you in 1 minute. Go. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and give you guys your 30 seconds. Okay, when you share, all right, if your answer doesn't match up, then check your proportion and see if your proportion matches up. Check to make sure that this part here matches, all right? 30 seconds, turn to your neighbor and share. Go.
I didn't finish.
So I did 6 is next to 15, I put 15 right there, and 12 is next to 60, so 60 at the bottom. And then I equaled it to x over 100, and then I was trying to find the percent because it says 1%. And I did 100 times 15 equals 60x, and then I did what 100 times 15 is what 1,500 equals 6x, and then I divide each of them by 60. And then I got 25% x.
Okay, because I put x over 60. But okay, I see it now.
We're trying to find the percent of.
Okay, here we go. So, problem number 1 said, what percent of 60 is 15? So here we go. The very first thing I notice is I'm going to set up my proportion, but I'm taking a look here. What percent means we don't know. So guess what? Our 100 stays there. The percent part I'm not sure of. So what I then have is I have my is over of. Well, look at 15 has to be with the is, so that means 60 has to be with the of. Is over of. So my is 15 over the of, over the whole, which is 60. Now I have my proportion. I'm going to go ahead, use my cross products. 60 times x is equal to 15 times 100. If I simplify both sides, that's 60x equals 1,500. And of course, like we did before, x is being multiplied with 60, so we divide by 60 on both sides. So that becomes x equals, and then of course we have 1,500 divided by 60 equals, ends up being 25. Remember what I said? I said reread your problem. The problem says, what percent of 60 is 15? Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about a percent, so put your percent sign on your answer.
Just a quick reminder as we head out to lunch, if you tried out for the boys or girls soccer teams and did not make the varsity cut and are interested in playing JV boy and JV girls soccer, stop by and see Coach Suling in the athletic office. So if you're interested in playing JV boy or JV girls soccer, stop by and see Coach Suling in the athletic office at the beginning of lunch. And a reminder to our gymnastic girls that you'll be released from class at 1:15 for your first practice today, and we'll meet by the girls' locker room.
Okay, so number 7, let's close read it. It says a pair of... Okay, everyone with me, right? Number 7, let's try it again. A pair of sneakers is on
Sale.
as shown. Take a look at the sneakers off to the right, right? They have a little price tag on there. It says this is 75% of the price. What was the
Original.
price of the shoes? So, listen carefully. This is a word problem. Go up at the top. Go ahead and put step 1. Okay, we're going to use, we cannot, is over of equals percent over 100 doesn't always work. Word problems require the actual part over the whole equals percent over 100. And again, this is just a reference part. I only have to write it once. Okay, that way I can look at it up at the top. Now comes step 2. Let's go ahead and set up our, right, step 2, we can't circle or identify keywords yet. We're actually going to have to do that and put them in here as we go. So take a look. 100 is on my bottom right. Do we have a percentage that goes above 100 in that?
75.
Right, it's 75 out of 100 in that problem, right? Now, what we have is we have a part over a whole. So if we take a look, that $51 on the sneakers in the little picture, guys, what does that represent? What's that? Those two little words above it? Sale price. Is the sale price the whole amount of the shoes, or is it going to be a part of the amount of the shoes? It's a part. It's a part. So the $51 will go on top. Now, that requires some thinking. Why is it a part? Because the original price is the whole amount of money you would normally have to pay. And guys, if you take a look at the question, it says, what was the original price? That's what we have to figure out. That's the whole, which goes on the bottom. So that's why I put the X down there. Now we go ahead. Step 3, right? Cross products. So 51 times 100 equals 75 times X. And we're going to solve it. So we simplify. 5100 equals 75X. We have to find out what X is. So we divide both sides by 75. That cancels. So we end up with X equals, let's punch this in here, 5100 divided by 75 equals 68. Now, there is a 4th step on this. Reread the question. What was the original price of the shoes? Ladies and gentlemen, how much were they?
$68.
Yeah, put your units on there. Don't forget your units, right? $68. Okay, so when it comes to word problems, you have to use this, give it some thought on what the part and the whole actually is of what they're talking about. All right? Percent proportion, ladies and gentlemen.